we never have a massive turnout at the start. We get a few people joining us over the next few minutes. So we will do what we seem to do with a lot of frequency every single time. We will wait until 5 minutes past the hour before we make a start. So we've got 5 minutes if you wanted to go and make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever. And hopefully over the next 5 minutes, a few other people will join us. So like I say, I will start properly in 5 minutes time, just so you are aware. Okay, well, it is now 5 minutes past the hour, so I did say we would start at 5 past. We have been joined by by two more in the 5 minutes. So we'll make a start just for the sake of those of you who are already here. And as I said, we never know, we may get a few others joining us, or we may not. We'll just sort of wait and see. Today's session is slightly different to the normal sessions in respect of we're not going to spend much time actually analyzing the assignment itself. I know last week we spent quite a lot of time talking about actually what the assignment is asking you to do. Today's is slightly different. Sorry, I haven't turned my email off. Let me just turn the email off, and then hopefully I won't get any more email notifications. Today is slightly different, where we're looking, if you like, more at some of the practicalities of how to complete an assignment. One element that was requested last week was to have a bit of a discussion about some research methods. So we're going to have a quick look at that. We will also be looking at, as I said, some of the more practical elements. We're going to be looking at how to write academically, because writing academically is different to writing a report that you would do at work. So there are some very, very specific elements, and rather than spend ages and ages and ages going through all of the do this, don't do that type things, I'm going to give you a number of URLs to various different guides that I have found myself online that I think will be very, very useful for you to have a look at. We're also going to look at how to correctly reference your material, because again, this is an important bit of academic writing, that you will be quoting from or drawing from sources, different sources that you have used as part of your research. And it's absolutely essential that you do credit the sources. So we'll be looking at what is known as Harvard referencing. We'll be going through how to correctly reference material. And the other thing I've been asked to cover off is the concept of plagiarism. Now, I'm sure you people are in no contemplating any form of plagiarism whatsoever. Element of academic writing, and I'm afraid to say that there are too many people that I have come across who think they copy and paste things off internets, their own work, and I'm afraid that is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. What you will find actually in a lot of organizations is that there is software that your submissions are put through, and they will be able to check. They perform checks on the internet. I don't know how the algorithm works, and you are able to be given a score as to the amount of plagiarism there is in your assignment. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with quoting a source, provided you cite the source. If you do that, that's acceptable. But again, there are limits. We will talk about that. And the final thing I wanted to mention, again, another practicality of submitting your assignment, is proofreading it. It sounds really stupid, but it is an incredibly important thing, because there's nothing worse than you putting your assignment into the internal verifier, you putting through a very good quality assignment, but you've got typos in there, you've got spelling mistakes, you've got poor grammar or whatever, and that could sometimes, it depends what the internal verifier, or I will probably just refer to them as the IV going forward. It depends what the IV is like. You get some IVs who get very difficult if they face poor grammar or poor spelling, and that could actually impact on the marks that you get awarded. So the proofreading element is a really important element. And if I have one piece of advice, it is don't rely on just proofreading it yourself. Because one of the problems when we write something, when we write a report or we write an assignment or whatever it is, when we read it as if it says what we wanted it to say, if that makes sense. I would always recommend getting somebody else to read it for you as well, because they will be able to ask you those very, very simple questions of what did you mean when you said this? Because they will read it as they will read the written word, they will not read what they think it should say, if that makes sense. So enough the importance of making sure that not only do you proofread it, but I think you are right there, Arthur. Not very few people are interested in reading it, but I'm sure we can all manage to influence a family member or something to read it. But yes, it is a difficult one. I'm very, very fortunate that because my wife works in marketing, her background is proofreading and editing. She's very happy to proofread things. The trouble is, if I give it things to her to proofread, she's also very happy to cover them in red pen with corrections. So you have to, you take the rough with the smooth. But yeah, it is a challenge. But I'm sure there will be a family member that owes you a favor of some sort that you can call in and ask them to proofread your document before you submit it. So let us get into the practicalities of today. I was looking at this just before, just refreshing myself with what I wanted to cover, and I am not convinced that today will be a full 2-hour session. I don't think there is enough to fill a 2-hour session without us going over and over and over things, and me sort of insulting to an extent by really dumbing down what I want to say. And I don't think that's going to be useful. It may be a shorter session. To a huge extent, that will be influenced by you, because it's very much going to be an open floor at one point where once I've covered off what I want to cover, or what I to, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions on any number of different elements in relation to Unit 712, the Strategic Human Resource Assignment. If you have questions about any of the other assignments, I won't be looking at them today. I'm really just focused on the human resource planning assignment. But what I'm going to be talking about with will be in general areas, things that are useful for any assignment that you are doing. The skills we'll be talking about, the referencing, the academic writing, the research, all of these elements. They're what I talk about assignments. But if you have any specific questions about any other assignments, I probably won't be able to answer them, just to warn you up front. So what I'm going to do to begin with is to share my screen with you, because what I'm going to do is I'll just get rid of that Zoom message. I can get rid of that as well. I don't need that anymore. Right. I'm going to start off by talking about how to effectively research. Now, again, one of you asked last week, can I just rely on the notes or the resources that you are given from the college? And my personal view on that is no, that is not sufficient. If I was ever marking an assignment and it only referenced one source, which was the in-house resource material, I would actually have concerns that the individual concerned has not gone away and researched the subject properly. And also, I would stress that to answer the 3 tasks that you have, if you solely rely on the resources that you have been given, I think you would struggle to be able to answer them effectively. So I think it is absolutely essential that you do go away and you do some additional research. And the big thing that you have to do when you do additional research is you have to credit the source that you got it from. So what I've done here, I just did a couple of Google searches before I joined you, and I looked at task 3 in a very, very high level way. Task 3 is describe what is meant by organization culture. And yes, I've put in company culture, but I'll just change it to organization. Now, what I've got here is I have 2 tabs open. I will come back to this second tab in a little while, but I'll just change the search on this as well. Ooh. Right. So this first one is a very, very simple, straightforward Google search just on the topic of organizational culture. And now what you're going to get here is just information about organizational culture. Now, the challenge you always get with any materials here is that there will be certain ones where they pay Google for them to appear at the top of the search. So it doesn't mean because it's coming up at the top of the search that it is therefore the best possible search. Now, when it says, task 3, describe what is meant by organizational culture, the one that really interests me straight away is this one. What are the 4 types of organizational culture? Now, I'm not saying this is the best one to go, but that to me looks interesting. So it's very much a case of just click on that, see what you've got, and then it starts talking about the different types of cultures within organizations. And you can then obviously go into the article, and you can read this article. This may be, I do not know, it may be an absolutely wonderful article. So the challenge you have with the general Google searches is these are not what are referred to as peer-reviewed articles. These are not academic articles. These are just information that you will find on websites. So I'm not going to say to you that is a good one to look at, that is a bad one to look at, apart from do not under any circumstances ever use Wikipedia as a source. Wikipedia is an unreliable source, as I'm sure you know. You can go onto a Wikipedia site and you can edit the content that is on there. I know because my father has a Wikipedia page. Well, he doesn't, but there's a page on Wikipedia about him. And my youngest son was offended by the fact that it said that my father has two sons, namely me and my brother, but no mention of his grandchildren. Rory was deeply offended by this, so Rory went onto the page and he edited it to put that he also has 3 grandsons. Now, admittedly, that is correct information, but that's the thing. It's in the public domain. You and I can just go on and edit it. So never, ever go near anything from Wikipedia. If you want to find in just a standard Google search, this is always one of the best sources to look for, Harvard Business Review. One of the other very, very good sources is Forbes magazine in the States. They're very, very well respected publications. So this one here, clicking on the Harvard Business Review, what is organizational culture? You will then find an interesting article. They are usually written by somebody who is a well-known author on the subject. So I would certainly recommend, if you have suggested articles from Harvard Business Review, they are worth looking at. The one thing you do need to be aware of, you can only look at 5, I think it's 5 Harvard Business Review articles free of charge a month. So you need to be quite selective about looking at things. Just to mention that, you can pay to be to have a subscription to Harvard Business Review. I've got one, but I've got a print subscription as well. So mine costs somewhere about £100 sterling a year. I'm not sure what the Just Online one is. I don't think it's ridiculously expensive. It's a matter of personal choice. But Harvard Business Review, in my opinion, is one of the best sources you can look at. So what you have here are just any old articles that could come in. I've just seen another one that will be quite a useful one. Again, if you ever see anything that is managers.org.uk, that is the Chartered Management Institute, CMI. Again, a very valuable and very well respected source. The one underneath it, MIT, a very well respected source. But again, you just start looking at them and yeah, CIPD, respected, but Metalog, never heard of them. LinkedIn, again, could be really good, but the one that's a learning, it's a class, it's an online class. But if you find articles on LinkedIn, the challenge about, I mean, I've published loads of articles on LinkedIn. Anyone can publish an article on LinkedIn. So the crucial thing is here, what you need to do when you just do a standard Google search is you need to go through it and you need to look at what is the source. To the best of my knowledge, I have never in my life heard of gothamculture.com. It may be the best website on organizational culture out there. I do not know. But I would stick with things I have heard of personally. So, Harvard Business Review, the CIPD, MIT, again, CIPD, they're respectable. Those kind of bodies, no issues whatsoever. Wikipedia, somebody's blog, not necessarily as reliable a source. Other things to think about. One of the things they often talk about, particularly relevant when you're looking at articles, you shouldn't be quoting from articles that are more than 10 years old. Oh, sorry, someone's put something in chat. So absolutely, the CIPD, you are absolutely spot on side. CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, is the UK HR professional networking. In fact, behind me on the wall, I have my CIPD certificate. Where is it? Got that one there. Top left as you guys look at it. Yeah, I'm a member of CIPD. The problem you will get with a lot of these people with CIPD, with CMI, some of them will be only accessible to members of the organization. I'm a member of CIPD. As part of my CIPD membership, I have access to their resource library, and I can access, I don't even know how many different publications. There are hundreds of publications in the database, and I can access every single article they have ever published through that database. It's a brilliant resource. And when I was doing my last qualifications, it was such a useful way to be able to go away and find stuff. You will find that some of the stuff that you will see a Google link to, you will go in there and you will get blocked because you are not a member. It's just, it's hit and miss, to be honest. So on a standard Google search, stick with reputable sources. If you have heard of them, you will have heard of Harvard, you would have heard of MIT. If you find something that's from, I don't know, Henley Management College or something, a reputable organization, use it. If you find something from Gotham Culture, I wouldn't be as convinced that that is a valid source. So there's your standard Google search. And now you have your second one that I want to talk about, which is Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar comes into play in more when you are having to do what is called a literature review. You, to the best of my knowledge, do not have to carry out literature reviews. Because with literature reviews, what you need to do is go out and find published articles that are in favor of the proposal and published articles that are in opposition to, and you then have to weigh up what each of them say and then reach a conclusion. If you want to find published articles, the best way to find them is to go into Google Scholar. And to find Google Scholar, it's dead simple. Go to normal Google and just put in the search box Google Scholar, and it will bring you into Google Scholar. Now, it will list, as you can see here, 3.5 million results on organizational culture. Now, this is where it can become challenging because you need to know a little bit about the subject that you are talking about. Because a simple one here, if we come to the third one down, organizational culture, Edgar Schein, 1990, that is 32 years old. So you would say, it's not really that relevant. Well, Schein is probably one of the best known authors on the subject of organizational culture. So even though it's quite an old article, I would certainly say that is a valid one to look at. One of the big things to always look at here is this bit underneath. How many people have cited it? How many people have published articles that refers to this piece of content? So since it was published in 1990, 7,500 people have cited it. That is a very, very impressive figure. Because if you look at the next one down, just as an example, I'm not saying this is a poor article. I do not know this article, but it came out in 2012 and it has only been cited by 477 people. So that says to me that even though that is 10 years old, therefore it is more current, because it hasn't been cited by anywhere near as many people, it's probably not as good or as powerful or as valid or as respected an article. The other thing you will see, unlike standard Google, where what you get here, if I just go to this one for no reason specifically, just organizational culture, if I click on this, it will take me through probably to a database, yep, as I thought it would. And what this will enable me to do is to read an abstract, so to read the highlights of what it's about. I cannot access the article. I could, but it would cost me money. So if I go back, you will notice on the right-hand side here, anything that has here where just PDF next to it, that means that is a free to access version of the PDF. So if we go to this Edgar Schein one, you click on it and you can now download a copy of this article from 1988 on organizational culture. And again, not only is it written by a highly respected author on the subject, once again, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sloan School of Management, a very, very reputable source. So, and it's a 58-page article, so that's going to be some heavy reading, but it probably is worth having a look at. So when the crucial thing is, because you don't have to do literature reviews, it is not essential that you do the research in Google Scholar. But like I say, when you look, you've got Edgar Schein here, a really respected person. So there's no harm in having a look at that article and maybe citing some of what he talks about. And again, if you go down here, here's another one, Understanding Organizational Culture, Alverson. I don't think I know that name, but again, cited by 4,100 people in 10 years. So that's a decent number, and it is free to access. All the ones that haven't got PDFs next to it, don't even worry about them. Now, what you can do, and this is an interesting thing. If I was to, sometimes you can actually just do a standard Google search and you can cheat, and you will sometimes actually find a copy of that article. But not in this instance. But like I said, just sometimes you will, so it can be quite useful. But the crucial thing, make sure you do research, make sure you are looking at sources other than just the materials that you have been given access to by the college. I would expect people at level 3 to probably only look at maybe 1 or 2 sources. When you are looking at level 7, which is the level that you are working at, I would expect there to be a number of different sources, and I would expect them to be sources that are from reputable sources. What a dreadful sentence, but hopefully you know what I mean. So, for example, I would expect there to be things from Harvard Business Review. I'd expect there to be things from CMI or CIPD. I would expect there to be things by MIT. I would probably expect there to be an article in there by Shine and things like that. So you need to go out and do research. If you start looking at each of the different tasks, task 1, it says research and analyze how the full human resource planning cycle impacts positively and adversely on strategic planning cycles, blah, 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 blah. I am 99% certain that there is nothing in the learning materials provided by the college that actually outlines what the human resource planning cycle is. So straight away, that tells you I've got to do some research on that. If you look at the full human resource planning cycle, what you will also find that in many situations, there will be some models relating to this. Just go in here. I don't know if there will be anything, but let's have a look. Well, let's use this one just as an example. Now, what you've got here, now I'm not saying this is, I don't even know the source of this article, but yeah, here are some examples of organizational culture. It's from an article. Now, this is just a little bit of this is a cheat for you. If you were to put in this model, that model does not count in your word count. So sometimes you are able to talk about a subject without having to go into details of within this organizational culture profile, there are 7 different traits. The organization needs to be aggressive, and by aggressive, it means blah, 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 blah. So you can actually save yourself text by putting in a graphic of a model. Also, it breaks the text up, it makes it easier to read, and you will score bonus points, as it were, with the assessors, because we like things to be easy to read. If we are given a page of just text with no gaps, it's very, very hard to read. If you break it up with models that are relevant, don't put models in just for the sake of it, but it's a really good tool to use. So if you start, I know, for example, that Shine has a model of three factors that influence corporate culture. I would much rather somebody put a picture of that model in than somebody wrote a paragraph of text about it, because the model says everything it needs to say. So just think about how you're going to present it. Also, if you then look in exactly the same paragraph, it talks about at the end, a gap analysis may be considered here if appropriate. Now, I'm sure that if I was to say to you, give me a definition of a gap analysis, you would give me a definition that would be pretty accurate. It is basically looking, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, what's the gap between, how are we going to bridge it? There's your gap analysis. But once again, it's in capital, it's capitalized. So that tells you that it's a very specific model. So have a look at the model and then make sure you actually use that model. So the big thing, I said this last week, before starting your writing, make sure you have read each task and the assessment criteria underneath 3 times as a minimum before you start writing. Because the biggest challenge you get is people will read, and again, back on task 3, just because it happens to be the bit of paper in front of me, describe what is meant by organization culture, and they will then start to write 700 words, which are basically, this is everything I know about organization culture. And they will not have answered the question. It is not tell me everything you know about organization culture. It is basically, as it says in assessment criteria 3.1, critically evaluate how organization culture affects recruitment and retention. So make sure, obvious though it sounds, make sure you answer the question. Make sure you really focus on the keywords within the assessment criteria. And I'll just give you a hand here. The keywords in the assessment criteria, the keyword in assessment criteria 1.1 is assess. Oops, sorry, someone's put something in chat. What is that report? Sorry, you've lost me, Saeed. What do you mean? What report do you mean? Sorry. No, I'm thoroughly confused. Sorry, I do apologize, but I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about. I'm basic what I'm talking about, and hopefully we're talking on the same things. We're not talking on cross purposes. I am literally I have in front of me assignment brief unit 712. Might be plagiarism. Yeah, don't worry, we'll come back to plagiarism. Plagiarism is an issue, but if I come back to, let's come out of the picture, go back into the article from Harvard Business Review. In fact, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. Just bear with me a second. Right. What I'm opening up here, this is my dissertation from my master's degree. Just ignoring all of this stuff. Now, what we've got here is, if we just look at any of these paragraphs, the first one here, Vroom and Jago 2007 display a similar view, citing Bass. There are almost as many definitions of leadership as there are persons who've attempted to design the concept. That is not plagiarism, because what I have done here is credited where that comes from. I've put it in quotation marks. If, however, I had just put there are almost as many definitions of leadership as there are persons who have attempted to define the concept, not put it in inverted commas, not credited Vroom and Jago, that is then plagiarism. Plagiarism is just copying and pasting off the internet. Citation is actually citing what the source is. So what I've got here, with all of this, none of this is plagiarism, because all along I am not trying to claim this is my work. My work is this bit here. In the same article, Vroom and Jago point out that one area that virtually all the definitions of leadership agree on is that involves a process of influence. That is my work. I'm not trying, I haven't copied and pasted that. And this is the thing. Plagiarism is trying to pass somebody else's work off as your own. Citation is not the same. So does that answer the query that you had, Said? I've got a yes, but I know that was a yes that you put up a little while ago, so I'm not going to try and claim the yes on that one. Well, hopefully it will, but it does. Brilliant. Anyway, we'll be coming back to the topic of plagiarism later. Now, going through the brief here, what we've got here, the keywords to be aware of: critically assess there, analyze there. You need to make sure you critically assess. You need to make sure you analyze. Here you've got evaluate and identify. And again, you have got those documents that I shared with you previously. The instruction words. They're not called instruction words. My mind has gone blank. Anyway, there's a document I shared with you again last week, the level 7 words. I'm sorry. That document tells you what is meant by evaluate, what is meant by discuss. And again here, what we've got, evaluate and discuss, those are the crucial words. It is not tell me everything you know about organizational culture. It is evaluate organizational culture. So evaluate means this is what you've got to do with it. You need to look at that other document. So that is the first element of, I'll just stop sharing for a little while. That's the first element of doing it. In order to know what Wafa, you are right. It is rephrasing. It's not plagiarism because I have mentioned the site as reference. So I'm saying where I got it from. The crucial thing is if you read something and somebody is obviously trying to pass it off as their own work, that is plagiarism. So we should use the website for plagiarism. Again, could you clarify what you mean?
Okay, can I clarify it?
Of course you can.
Okay. I think he means that there are some websites like Unicheck, Turton,
Got you.
I think.
Yes, got you. Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, part of the assignment is that we have to upload our assignment on it and make the report.
Right. Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. Got it. Sorry. Yeah. We used to use something called Turnitin when I was doing my masters, and it's exactly the same principle. When you submit it, it generates a report of what the plagiarism is, and it also gives you a score, a percentage of how much of the assignment is potentially plagiarized. But of course, what it will still pick up on a quote. What it doesn't do is pick up on the fact that you've then cited where the quote comes from. So it's, it will highlight it, but it's a useful thing to know. Again, you will, if you, as an example, if all of you were to put what the task was, so for task 1, you put a heading of within a strategic framework, critically assess the strategic importance of vital resource function, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff, that would get picked up by the software as plagiarism. But you completely disregard it. So we don't look at the raw number. We actually then will start looking at the detail. Generally speaking, I think we always used to work on, when I was at Northampton University, that if the score was below 20%, it was not an area of concern. If it was round about 20%, you'd have a look at it. But then, like I say, sometimes it can be really, really quick. You will occasionally find that people do things like they will start quoting whole paragraphs. And guess what? That will move your plagiarism score up. I would recommend you never quote more than 2 sentences in one bit.
Okay. I have tried to make an account on one of these sites, and it asks me about my number and that they are going to call me. I don't know why.
Neither do I.
Yeah. I don't know.
I would say find another site.
No, I mean, do you think that the college can give us an account to use, or each one of us has to make his own?
I would, if the college is asking you to submit it through this, then they've got to have an account at the other end to be able to pick it up. So I would say that it is sorry, just comments are coming in. I would say that it should be able to be done through the college. Yeah, I mean, paying for the account, again, I can only comment on what I've done before. I know that with one of the other training providers that I actually do assessing for, they have an account with, again, it's this Turnitin, which is the similar principle. There is no cost to the students. All the cost is met by the college, by the provider. So
yes, I think that would be easier as well.
I would say that's something you should try and take up with the college and have a discussion with them yourselves, because that strikes me as more logical. But then I don't know. Well, I was going to say this, but you have to pay for the full report. Maybe that is just the way that individual site works. I can't comment because I'm not familiar with that one. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would say that there needs to be some sort of centralized account on it. Yeah, I mean, I can't comment because I've no involvement in this whatsoever. I would say this is something that you need to discuss with the college yourselves, but I would also recommend it's probably not a good idea for each of you to discuss it separately. I would say that you need to maybe have a discussion amongst yourselves and then decide who's going to represent. Yeah, and I think yes, you're right. You need to ask the admin people. So yeah, like I say, I can't comment. I can't say this is what you should do because I don't know. I've had no involvement in this aspect at all, but I would certainly say that you need to get some clarification from the college on how the system actually works. You know, whether you have some kind of account you can all use or whatever. So yeah, have a discussion with the college on that one. Okay, so we've actually jumped into plagiarism already. So while we're talking about plagiarism, let's just let's put it to bed and then get it done and out the way. Generally speaking, and this is me talking from my experience and not talking in any way about your submissions, because I have not seen any of your submissions. I'm talking about the submissions I get from other students I have working with other colleges and other training suppliers. And more often than not, it sounds a really damning way to put it, but I can't think of any other way of putting it, is people who sometimes write assignments think that the assessors are stupid. We can very easily work out that something isn't their own work. What you tend to find is everyone has a style in which they write. Now, I'm not some sort of forensic writer person who can sort of completely dismantle everything you do, but you get used to someone's style, and then suddenly you will find a paragraph or two that just do not sit with everything that they put previously. You just suddenly think that style, the kind of language being used, etc., is completely different. And the second we get faced with something like that, we get an alarm bell. And if we haven't got software to run it through, all you ever need to do, and this is all I ever do, is I will just take one random sentence out of the bit that I think is a bit obvious or a bit suspect, put it in a Google search, and 99 times out of 100, it will tell me what website it's come off. And I'm then able to go in, find the article, and actually find exactly the same text. So, you know, we do work it out. We can spot it very quickly. My favorite ones, and again, I've had people who've done plagiarism who haven't realized that the sentence carries on below the picture or something, so they'll only put half the sentence in, and obviously on the website there was a picture, and then the text carried on after underneath, so it doesn't make any sense. It stops halfway through a sentence. You will also find people who will suddenly put something in and it is American spelling as opposed to English spelling, or vice versa. Suddenly there are Zs when there weren't Zs before, and things like this. The crucial thing to say is we spot it. We're not trained how to do it. You don't need to be a genius. They jump out at you. They just say straight to you, straight away, there is something wrong. And if we think there is something wrong, we will investigate it. And the worst thing is, I know, and again, I would not dream of naming names, but anytime I get a piece of work to mark from one of the students on one of the courses with one of the providers, I am going through it so carefully, because this individual has a history of having 2 or 3 occasions submitted assignments that were not her own work. It's not my decision. I would have thrown them off the course by now, but the provider doesn't want to. The crucial thing is, we expect you to do research. We expect you to draw on other sources of information. And we also expect you to credit the other sources of information. And that's all you have to do. Plagiarism is wrong. And by the way, plagiarism is not just stealing materials off the internet. It is also, you know, taking materials that one of your colleagues has written and tried to pass it off as your own work. You will also find on the internet, and I'm sure you've all probably already done this, and if you haven't, I'm not suggesting you do, you can find copies of assignments for pretty much any qualification on the internet. You can download copies. Guess what? We know what those copies say. So I am sure none of you would consider doing any of these things I've talked about, but just, yeah, as a hint, please don't. We will find out. And worst case scenario, it would lead you to fail the qualification, which would be a real pity. So don't do it. I will now get off my soapbox, and we will move on from plagiarism. Brilliant. So in case you haven't seen the message, Saida said he sent a message to admin at the college, and they're answering, and they will discuss it with the team. So I'm assuming they will discuss it with the college and come back to you. I assume you were talking about the access to the software, and I think that's a very good idea. That, yeah, brilliant, good. Well done for taking that on board, and hopefully you will all be able to get that sorted out now. But I think it's definitely the right way to do it. Have one person of having the discussion with them, because otherwise it just gets a little bit chaotic. Yeah, go on.
Hi. When you showed your master report, you
Yep.
put you put the topic between two sentences or between two quotations. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put it in the plagiarism report, it will not say it's plagiarism. How?
How does it know it's not plagiarism?
Yeah.
Hang on,
Just because put it in between quotation, so the system understand that you cite this sentence for the author.
Generally speaking, I mean, it depends on the software. To be honest, hang on, let's share my screen again. I've muted myself, sorry. It depends, because you will get some software that if something is in inverted commas, it will realize that it's not plagiarism, so it will disregard it. So it could be dependent on the software that you use. If we look at here, when it scans this paragraph, it could be that it just completely ignores that bit and all it's checking for plagiarism is this sentence here. Because the other bits are obviously not plagiarized, because I have said where I got them from.
Okay.
I don't understand how, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't understand how computers work at all. I don't understand the algorithm. And it could well be that as soon as you put something in inverted commas, it knows it's not plagiarism because it knows you're not trying to pass it off as your own work. Anyway, my drink of water is virtually empty, and we've been going for nearly an hour. Can we just take a quick 5-minute break so I can just refill my water? And then we'll come back and start looking at some of the other elements. I hope that's okay with you all.
Yes.
So
Okay, great.
Yep, I will see you in about 5 minutes. I will be back. Okay, well, I'm back, so I hope that that you are, and I'm not just going to be talking to myself. But anyway, so far we have again just revisited the assignment and talked about the command words. That was what I was looking for, and I just couldn't think what the word was. The assess, the analyze, etc., and talked again about the importance of making sure you read the task and the assessment criteria 3 times again before you start writing. There's nothing scientific about 3 times. I just think, that if you read it more, if you read it about 3 times, it tends to sink in more. So we've talked about that element. We've touched again on it is not tell us everything you know about organization culture. It's about answering the question. We've talked about proofreading very briefly, and just to reiterate on that, it's incredibly important that you do proofread it and that you do find somebody who is prepared to proofread it for you, because like I say, I know from personal experience when I write training courses and things that I will put things on a PowerPoint slide or whatever, and then when I put the slide up in front of a group of people, it makes absolutely no sense, but it made perfect sense to me, and because I knew what it was meant to say, and that's what it said when I read it. So just, proofreading is important. We have also spent perhaps more time than I would have liked talking about plagiarism. You've lost me, Dania. Sorry, your comment about we should pay for JD to provide the report. Are you talking about the plagiarism report again? I hope that you are. Just if you could clarify, I would be grateful. Oh, so you have to pay for each time for each assignment. Oh dear. Anyway, but like I said, that's one that you need to take up with the college and to talk to them about. So yeah, we've talked about proofreading, the importance of that. We've talked about research. We've looked at standard Google search. The big thing, like I said, when you can pay to have yourself high up on Google searches, and also obviously if you understand anything about how the internet works, and I have to be honest, I don't particularly. I'm not very good at understanding, but there's this concept of search engine optimization that if you get the right words, you get higher up on the list, and I really must do some work on that one day so I get my website turning up higher up. But anyway, by the by. So it's not just, anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's not just about the highest up returns on Google that are the best ones. There will be elements of cash changing hands to promote websites. So make sure you are looking at valid, respected sources, whether it is things like CIPD, CMI, well-known professional bodies, whether it's things like, Sloan School of Management at MIT, whether it's things like Harvard Business Review, Forbes, respected publications, etc. I'm not saying that Gotham culture is necessarily a bad site, because I've never ever looked at it in my life, but it won't have as much credibility if you use it as a source. And then also, if you start going into Google Scholar, which you obviously can just get via a simple Google search, just put in Google Scholar and you'll get Google Scholar come up. You are then able to look at academic articles. With academic articles, you want to make sure that you don't refer to things that are more than 10 years old, unless they are by sort of incredibly well respected names in the field. I mean, as a simple example on that, Porter, who is possibly the most respected name in the field of strategy, He put an article in Harvard Business Review called "What is Strategy?" It was in 1990. It was published. It is still held up as an iconic article. So to refer to that, even though it's over 30 years old, you're not going to be told, "Oh dear, that you shouldn't be referring to something that old," because it's such a respected person. Anyway, make sure it's less than 10 years old wherever possible, and always look at how many citations it has. The more citations it has, the better, because more people have referred to it. Excellent. Thank you, Dania. Thank you for confirming what you were talking about. And also make sure you look for the ones that have the PDF next to it, because those are the ones that you can actually access free of charge. Because even though those articles will all appear, they will a lot of them will cost you money if you're not licensed to go and look at them. And by the way, that's the same with some of the things from CIPD and other professional organizations. So we have 2 areas that I have on my list of things to cover off today that are left to cover. But as I said earlier, also, if there's anything else you want to discuss in relation to things, we can cover that off as well. So I want to cover off 2 further areas. The first one is the slightly smaller one, which is the referencing one, and then we're going to spend a bit of time looking at academic writing. So in terms of referencing, we've already kind of touched on it. If you are citing something, if you are quoting something, you need to credit the source. And when you credit the source, you need to do it in a specific way and using what is called Harvard referencing. So, very quick question. Are you or are you not aware of how Harvard referencing works? If you could just quickly put either a yes or a no in chat, because I don't want to spend time talking to you about how Harvard referencing works if you're all already familiar with it. So, okay, I have a no, which is absolutely fine. What about anybody else? Anybody else want to tell me whether they're familiar with Harvard referencing? You've got some. Yeah, you're familiar with some of it, which is fine. And need clarification. So there we go. I've got a no, a little bit, and could do with some clarification. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. Very, very happy to provide a bit of clarification. Once again, I'm afraid I'm going to share my screen because it's easier to do it that way. And again, if I go back into my document. Now, what you will see all the way through this document is if I am citing somebody, it will say afterwards, as an example here, Vroom and Jago brackets 2007. That is referring to an article written by Vroom and Jago in 2007, where they were referring to the work of a gentleman named Bass in 1990. Bass is a very, very well-known leadership author. So here I have the start point of Harvard referencing. When you are referencing within the text, all you need to do is put down the name of whoever wrote it and the year in which it's published. You don't need to put any other information unless you are citing a website. And then, as you will see there, all I've done here is to just put in brackets after the information the website I got it from. So that is simple referencing within the text. And don't worry, I've got some handouts I will send across to you on Monday that give you more information on this. I just want to whiz down, so I want to find, there's one other thing I want to find that we can refer to in terms of Harvard referencing. Here we go. So this last one here as employees gain more decision authority and latitude, managers become more social supporters and coaches rather than commanders. This is an article that was written by a bloke called Heerwagen, I'm guessing that's pronounced, and there's probably going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 more other authors. If you have an article that was written by more than one person, correct harvest referencing, and I don't know why, is to just put the name of the first one and then you follow it with et al, which probably means, well, it does mean something in Latin. I just don't know what it is. It's just, that's just how you do it. So you don't need to write 3 or 4 names. You just put the name of the first author, et al, and the date. Once you have done all of your referencing, and by the way, what you can do, there are you can actually set it up in Word so that you can do your referencing as you go along. You've probably picked up on the fact already that I'm not brilliant with computers. I know how to use them. I know what I need to know. Things like that, that gets too complicated, so I don't know how to do that. But there are videos on YouTube that tell you. So it probably is worth doing that, because the way I had to do it was do it as I went along. And that really does take a long time. Once you have done all your referencing, and by the way, here we go. I've instead of talking about it, I've just put a model, copy of the model, and all you do is you just need to have figure, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way through, what it is, the year, and where the website you got the picture from. Simple as that. That's how you cite something there. And once you've done all of this, once we get into our, we've completed it here we go. It's a long old piece of work. This was 15, I think it's 15,500 words, so it's quite a big piece of work, as you can see, because we're now into page 53. We're getting towards the end. Here we go, conclusion. Once you then get into the appendices, right, I've been asked a question. Sometimes there is an article on the web without an author, just a year of publication. How do you reference it? All you do is you put the title of the article, the website you found it on, and the year of publication. If it hasn't got an author credited, don't worry about it. Just title, website, year. That will be more than sufficient. Once you have completed it, you then have your referencing at the end. And again, the referencing has to be done in a very specific fashion. The first thing is it has to be done in alphabetical order by surname of the lead author. Now, what you will also see here is, so the first one, Bruce Avolio, the year it was published, the name of the article, the name of the publication, and you always have to put what volume and what issue number, but again, they will always tell you that, and the specific pages, because what you've got here is in volume 62 of issue 1 of American Psychologist, that was a magazine, and it's probably 160 pages long, but this article is between pages 25 and 33. And by the way, when you do any search on the internet, let's just see if we can still, have I got anything open? Here we go. Let's go into here. It will tell you on the front page more often than not. Name of the author, name of the thing, when it was published, what volume number, etc. It will always give you that information, so you don't need to worry about it. It's always available on the article, and if it's not actually on the article, more often than not, it will be on here in the actual text, so you will always have access to that information. If it is a book, let's find some books. Here we go. Author and year, title, publisher. That's all you need to do. So in this one, I mean, yeah, there's about 4.5, 5 pages of references. I would not expect that from you. You don't need to cite every single time it's referenced. If I reference this bit here, leadership and the 1 minute manager, if I reference it 15 times, I only need to put it in once. Once again, here where we get Warren Blank, John Weitzel, and Stephen Green. When I referred to it in the actual text, it would be referred to as Blank et al. 1990. So hopefully that is a very quick understanding. What you will be getting sent over to you on Monday are 3 separate documents. First one will be this one. This is a simple 2-page guide to Harvard referencing, which tells you how to do it within the work and then how to do it in your reference list. And it will tell you how to do a book, how to do a journal article. Unlikely you're going to be using a newspaper, but if you do, how to do that, how to do a website. So this is it's a very useful, quick guide on how to cover off or everything on your Harvard referencing. You will also have this document. No, I opened the wrong one, that one. There we go. This is a much bigger document. It's 42-page document, which gives you everything you could ever want to know about how to do Harvard referencing, whether you're doing short quotes, long quotes, more than once, etc. Vast amounts of more information than you will probably ever need will be in this larger document. And the third one is a PowerPoint presentation. I quite like this. This is from Jamie, my elder son gave me this. This was when he was doing his master's at University of Winchester, and this was a presentation they gave him. And I think it's a really easy presentation to go through, which covers everything you need to know about Harvard referencing. And in many respects, it's easier to look at that than to wade through a big 42-page document or whatever. So, like I said, on Monday, when I send the stuff over, you will get those 3 different documents: 2-page, big 42-page, and a PowerPoint, which will give you everything you need to know about how to do Harvard referencing. So any quick questions about, well, or they don't have to be quick, any questions about Harvard referencing? Once again, as I've already said, you can get Word to automatically do it as you go along. So you can actually, I think all you need to do is you do the Blanchard 1990 in the text, and you are able to, on a separate window that opens up, do the full reference for the reference page at the end, and then it puts it all together at the end. But don't try and work out how to do it yourself. As I've said, if you look at it's on YouTube, they explain exactly how to do it. I'm just too much of a technophobe to try that, but I am assured it's a lot easier doing it that way. I know Jamie did his that way and said it was a lot easier. So the last thing which I want to cover off with you is academic writing, because like I said, academic writing is different to just writing a report for work, because as it says, as it says in your assessment assignment guidelines, you've got to critically assess, you've got to analyze, evaluate, etc. So you need to make sure you do it. And what I've actually done, and it's a number of different websites and one document. And again, on Monday, you will get a bit of paper that gives you the URLs of all the websites and the document. And all of these, I think that there's some really, really useful hints and tips here. So I'm just going to very quickly, I am not going to read you every single page of every document. I'll just show you, this is the document you will get. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different websites. You don't have to go through every single one of them, but they're all from different universities, and they're their guides for academic writing that they give to their students. So they're likely to be quite, well, they're not likely to be, they are very useful guidance documents. The existing document you're going to get comes from the University of Reading, which bizarrely enough is just at the end of my road. It's quite a long road, but it is literally just around the corner. And my elder son, Jamie, who's done his master's, is now doing a further university qualification at Reading. So he's now living at home, and maybe one day he'll get a real job. But anyway, by the by, sorry. This is just, it's as it says, it's just a document on academic writing, and there's some really useful different things here. This one is probably more focused on the actual grammar and spellings and those sort of areas, so it is quite a useful one. But it's, again, it's background information. I'm not saying you have to sit down and wade through every single one of these documents, but this one is more, like I say, more relating to grammar, spelling, etc., etc. Again, I thought a useful document. We're now going to go into all the different websites that you're getting the URLs to. We can come out of that one. Now this, again, this came from Jamie. Jamie was very useful to me on this one. I accosted him and said, have you got anything on? And he said, yeah, this is from, as you can see, the University of Manchester, and it's what it's called their academic phrase bank. This is something they give access to all of their students, but it's on the internet. So it's got so much information. It tells you exactly how to, write an article, write an assignment. If you've got to be critical, which guess what, you have on one of yours, it tells you exactly what you need to be doing if you're being critical, if you're looking at causality, if you want to give examples, it gives you guidance on all of these. And the great thing is, because it's a website, if you just click on that, it will just take you to the give examples bit. You know how it works. Really, really useful. I thought that this is an amazing resource. I really liked this. Referring to sources, guess what? That kind of picks up a little bit on what we've already talked about. It comes, it looks again at referencing. And then you've got, things like describing methods, reporting results. You're unlikely to use them, and discussing findings, you're unlikely to use them, because that's more when you're doing academic research and you do sort of statistical analysis and things like that. But writing conclusions is a really, really useful one as well. So I think this is a very, very useful resource. I would not recommend with any of these resources that you feel that you just sit down and read them cover to cover. There's a lot of information there, but they're there to have a look at. And with this one, I would certainly say, have a good look at what it says about being critical, because you're asked to be critical on a number of different occasions. So that's the academic phrase bank from Manchester. The next one, this one's actually from Sydney University of Sydney in Australia, and this just shows you how good Google searches can be, because what you've got here is, again, it's a huge resource that looks at academic writing, and as you can see, types of academic, how to plan it, how to structure it, how to edit it and proofread it, how to, it gives you information about evidence, plagiarisms, and reference. This is an incredibly comprehensive guide to how to do academic writing. I was really, really impressed with this. If you can't find the answer to a question you've got about academic writing in this article, I don't think the answer will exist anywhere. So that's that one. And again, you'll get this URL. Next up, University of Sussex. And as again, it is what it says. Welcome to the Academic Writing Guide. not as comprehensive as the others, but still quite a useful source. Another one from Reading University, again, just up the road from me. Expert guidance from study advice at Reading University. And again, it just tells you how to write properly. It gives you, it gives you the grammar bits, the punctuation bits. It gives you some tips on proofreading, but these bits are really, really important, because this, I think, is absolutely essential. Write concisely and with precision. I have a tendency, and you probably know this just from listening to me, to say too much, to write too much. If I ever have to write an assignment, I'm a huge believer in, why express something in 10 words if you could express it in 30 words, which is not a very good way to write. So it's really useful for me to be able to look at this and think, right, how can I write concisely? How can I get that, far more precise? How can I make it that the reader, as in the verifier, doesn't have to work hard to find what I'm saying? Because that's something you always want to think about. If you overcomplicate what you are doing, then it is overcomplicated for the internal verifier when they're trying to mark it. So, as it says here, what does it mean to write in an academic style? It doesn't mean using a lot of long words and complicated sentences. It is to communicate complex ideas that makes them least likely to be challenged. So it's a different form of writing. And again, I thought this was a really, really useful document. And by the way, if you click on that link there, don't worry about doing that, because that is the PDF I showed you at the start of this bit. So I've already done that. So there's some really useful information there. And then University of York. This was, again, it's just on academic writing. They have a bit on academic writing. Again, style, structure, criticality. Again, that will be useful for you to look at. And this one here, the essays, that just happened to be the tab that I had clicked on because I was having a look at it, because that is what you're going to be doing. You are doing more essays and reports. You're not doing dissertations. You're not doing reflective reviews. You're not doing exams, etc. But again, another very useful resource. And there are more. There are 3 more. These are just additional documents. In terms of understanding how to write academically, the ones that I've just showed you were the best documents. I kind of liked these ones, this site, Oxbridge Essays. This is just a website that is set up for students at Oxford and Cambridge, so probably the top 2 universities in the UK, although maybe Durham and Bristol and places like that may argue. But and it's just to give them some assistance in completing their work. So 17 academic words and phrases to use in your essays. Just, you will inevitably be talking about a number of different things. So, if you've got a number of different things, talk about firstly, secondly, thirdly. Talk about according to so-and-so, this person stated that, and they were referring to the views of some of the things that you actually saw in what we were talking about earlier. What happens if you're expanding on a subject? Moreover, furthermore, in addition, what's more? Because you don't want to just say also all the time. They're silly little things, but this is, I just find this quite a useful document. So 17 academic words and phrases, some guidance on how to structure your essays, because structure is incredibly important. You want it to be an easy read. And then finally, again, this is University of Reading. They've got some really good resources. And these are just some hints and tips at writing at level 7. And this is a level 7 qualification. So there are some really useful elements here. By the way, you can also look here. I mean, obviously things like library resources, you won't be able to access them, but there's some ideas, you know, how do we detect plagiarism? How to avoid plagiarism? So there's a really good one. And there's an example for you to have a look at. So there's, again, some really useful information. All of those websites and documents that I've just shown you, I found from a very simple Google search. So I can pretty much guarantee that if you wanted to go out and do Google searches, you could find more information if you didn't find those ones useful. The crucial thing is, like I've said, is just make absolutely sure that you have a good understanding of academic writing and do not leave it all to the last minute. It's the easiest thing in the world. We all do it. And I certainly know when I was students, we all come out with these rubbish of I work better under pressure. No, you don't. And you need to have time, because I will guarantee that when you actually have finished writing it, you will have way more words than you need, or way too few words. That's unlikely, to be honest, but way too many. So you then have to obviously work back through it again and become more concise in what you are saying. So that covers off what I wanted to cover off today. We have looked at, just to revisit it, we've looked at command words. We've just revisited that we were talking about last time. We have talked about proofreading. We have talked about how to, a couple of ways of carrying out research. We've talked about Harvard referencing. We have unfortunately had to talk about plagiarism, but you have to do it. It's a very, very important subject. And I've pointed you to some information that's going to be coming your way to give you some hints and tips on academic writing. So that covers off, like I say, everything that I had to cover off today. I did say at the start I would be surprised if we managed to last 2 hours, and we're just over an hour and a half. So really, it's now over to you. If there is anything that you want to put into the mix, anything that you want to raise today. One thing actually, before I hand over to that, session 3 next Saturday. It is next Saturday, and then we've got a week off, I think. Next Saturday, we will actually be looking at a sample assignment. So a quick question for you. Have you been emailed a copy of the sample assignment for 712 Human Resources? If just one of you could tell me that, if you just give me a quick yes or a no.
You mean from the college?
From the college?
No.
No problem. That's absolutely fine. What I will do is I will make sure that when I send you the other documents, I will also send you a copy of the sample assignment, because it'll be a very useful thing for you to have had a look at, so that you've actually got it in advance. And what we're going to do is we are going to have a look at it. We are going to be critical of it, because I will tell you it is not perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the assignment. We're going to look at it. We're going to be critical of it. We're going to reflect on what's good about it, what's not so good, and we will also be looking at, okay, so what if we look at the areas that aren't so good, what could have been done to improve it? So we're going to, we will hopefully. Well, I will hopefully be in a position, as will you, because it's not just about me doing the work next week, to actually give you some really good pointers. So on Monday, because I'm in the UK and this is my weekend, so I'm not working tomorrow. I'm going to see my mum. So on Monday, I will send you the links to those websites. I'll send you the stuff on Harvard referencing, and I will also send you a copy of the sample assignment, so you've got it for next week. So now over to you. if there are any questions that you want to ask, anything that you want to raise in relation to the sort of areas that we've talked about today, this is your opportunity. If there aren't, I am absolutely fine if you decide that you want to leave now. I have no problem with that at all. If if everything you needed has been covered off, you're free to take the rest of the day.
Okay, I have a quick one. As for the assignment in general, I'm going to talk about the outline. Is it good or not if we have at the beginning like a summary, executive summary, then like some information about the company or the institution that we talk about, then answering the questions and the tasks one by one, and by the end, the conclusion, and then the referencing.
Right. I'm just
Is
showing.
it okay?
This is the contents page for my dissertation, just because this is the one I have on my laptop. And as you will see, we've got a contents page, ignore acknowledgements, abstract. So there is your executive summary. Yes, always have an executive summary so that they've got something so that it actually tells them what they're going to look at. In your introduction, absolutely. I would want to know about the organization that you are going to be talking about. And I would also want to know about your role in the organization. So absolutely. Then, task 1, task 2, task 3, then conclusions and recommendations if needed. Unlikely to have many recommendations in these assignments, but there would definitely be a conclusion, and then your references. So yeah, pretty much exactly what you said. But always have an executive summary. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I know that the information about the company are not included in the assignment. So if there are a lot of information, if I wrote a lot about the company, the external environment, the internal environment, weaknesses, opportunities, is it okay or not?
I would say so. I would say it's okay, but I wouldn't go into too much detail. To me, I would say that my word count started here, which is actually when you get into it, I'll get past the introduction. I think there is a danger of saying too much about the organization. What you need to make sure that you can say plenty of things about the organization, provided the information you are putting down is relevant. If it's not relevant, I wouldn't want to know everything about the organization. If it was the finance assignment, I would want to know about how the finance processes operate. On the HR assignment, I'd like to know about how the HR processes. To be brutally honest with you, I'm not in the least bit interested about how the finance processes work on the HR assignments.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So just put in as much information as is relevant. Okay, anybody else got any questions?
About the table of contents.
Yes,
it's not so important, right?
Not really. I mean, on a normal assignment, because if you think about it, it's what, between 2.5 and 4,500 words from memory, I think is your word count. So you are probably looking at roughly no more than 10 pages, 10, maybe 12 pages, something like that. So do you really need a contents page? I would say probably not.
No.
I am pretty sure I haven't got any copies of all my old assignments are all on a hard drive, but I certainly don't remember ever doing contents pages on them because it wasn't needed. You know,
Yeah.
the dissertation that I showed you, that was, well, when you include the appendices, that's over 100 pages, so it's a different ball game. You know, in terms of the text, it was over 50 pages, so it's completely different. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be overly concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything from anybody else? Okay, I have a couple of no's that have come through, so that's fine. Okay, then in that case, if no has any more questions, you are very welcome to leave. I will say have a splendid week. Take care, look after yourselves, look after your families, stay safe, and I look forward to speaking to you all again next week. And like I said, I'll send you that stuff. Well, I'll send the stuff via the college on Monday. And please make sure that you have a chance to, not spend hours looking at it, but at least read the assignment before next week. So,
Okay.
in which case, take care, and I will speak with you all again next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
And you.
Thank you. Bye.